Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me in a brand new Pivot webinar. Today we're going to talk about a problem most organizations know very well, using too many tools and still not having enough clarity. So in this session, we'll take a look at how Pivot helps teams and organizations to bring communication, planning, documentation, and execution in one connected space. Let's take a look at the agenda. So first we will cover the hidden cost of too many tools, problem and solution, then how Pivot brings structure to the work, then building with spaces, rooms, and blocks. After that, a simple workflow inside Pivot, then a practical starting point. After that, Q&A section, and finally some closing remarks. So let's start with the app stack problem. Most teams don't choose complexity on purpose. They build an app stack because their needs grow. But the more tools a team adds, the more work gets pulled apart. The team doesn't just have to do the work anymore, it also has to remember where every piece of the work lives. So, where is the latest plan? Where was the decision made? Who owns the next step? Was this updated in the task board or only mentioned in chat? Did the meeting notes ever get shared? That creates hidden work. People search for links, repeat updates, summarize meetings, copy information between tools, and explain context again to anyone who missed it. The team may be busy all day but still feel stuck. The issue is structure. When communication, documentation, tasks, meetings, and decisions are separated, people have to stitch the workflow together manually. That slows everyone down. Pivot was built around a different approach. Instead of spreading work across disconnected tools, Pivot gives teams a shared environment where work can be organized, discussed, documented, and moved forward in context. The goal is not just to use fewer apps, the goal is to make work easier to follow. In Pivot, a team can create a space for a project, course, community, department, campaign, or workflow. Inside that space, they can add the tools they need: pages, rooms, goals, databases, forms, events, polls, files, and more. So instead of asking people to jump from app to app, the space becomes the place where the work actually lives. Space gives your work an adaptable place to live. So the foundation inside this workflow is a space. A space is where everything related to a specific area of work can come together. For example, a product launch space could include the launch plan, key deadlines, project updates, team discussions, files, goals, and decision history. A core space could include lessons, announcements, live classrooms, assignment, resources, and student discussions. The important thing is that the space reflects the real work. When people enter the space, they should know where to find the plan, where to ask questions, where updates belong, and where the progress is tracked. That alone removes a lot of friction. So instead of sending more messages asking where something is, the team has already a place to return to. Rooms keep communication connected. So once the space is clear, the next step is organizing communication. Not every conversation needs the same format. A quick question does not need to become a meeting. A weekly update should not disappear in casual chat. A decision should not only live in someone else's notes. Pivot uses rooms to separate communication by purpose. So we have chat rooms for quick questions and fast coordinations, post rooms for structured updates, announcements, decisions, and discussions that people may want to revisit. Audio rooms help when a short voice conversation can solve a blocker faster than a longer thread. Video rooms work well for live meetings, reviews, walkthroughs, and streaming rooms can support larger live sessions, webinars, or broadcasts. The key difference is that these rooms can live inside the same space as the work. So communication does not float outside the workflow. It stays connected to the project, course, team, or community it belongs to. Blocks shape the workflow. Scape, so spaces give the work a home. Rooms give communication the right place. And blocks give the space the structure. So blocks are how teams build the actual workflow inside Pivot. A team can use pages for documentation, databases for tracking tasks or requests, goals for progress, forms to collect information, events and calendars for timing, polls for decisions, and files or media blocks for resources. This matters because different teams need different structures. A marketing team might build a space around campaigns, assets, approvals, and launch dates. And operation teams might need intake forms, SOPs, recurring tasks, owners, and reporting. A community team might need announcements, discussions, events, resources, and member feedback. Pivot does not force every team into one rigid setup. Instead, teams can build the right structure that fits how they actually work. A campaign connected from start to finish. So let's use a campaign as an example. In any typical app stack, the campaign brief might be in a document. Tasks may live in a project management tool. Feedback might happen in a chat app. Deadlines might sit on a calendar. Files may be stored in a drive. Decisions might happen during meetings and get summarized later if there's time. So everything exists, but the workflow feels scattered. In Pivot, that campaign can live inside one space. The brief becomes a page. The deliverables can live inside a database. The launch outcome can be tracked with a goal. Stakeholder requests can come through a form. Daily discussion can happen in a chat room. Weekly updates can go in a post room. Key days can live in events or a calendar. And if the team needs a live review, they can open a video or an audio room. So the work still has different parts, but those parts stay connected. That makes the whole workflow easier to understand. The team can see the plan, the progress, the conversation, the decisions, and the next steps without rebuilding context from different apps. Build the first space around the biggest pain. So if your team already works across too many tools, you don't need to move everything into Pivot at once. Start with the workflow that creates the most confusion. That might be a project with too many updates, a team process that depends on manual follow-up, a course with scattered material, or a request workflow currently running through email and spreadsheets. Build one space around that workflow. Start with a page for the plan, a chat room for quick discussion, a post room for structured updates, a database for tasks or requests, a goal for the main outcome, and events or a calendar for timing. Once that works, you can expand. The point is not to create a perfect system on day one. The point is to give important work a place where people can actually follow it. Now let's move to the Q&A section. First questions, does Pivot replace every tool immediately? Not necessarily. Pivot can become the central place where work is organized, discussed, documented, and tracked. Teams can start with one project, process, course, or team workflow, then move more work into Pivot over time. Next question, how is Pivot different from using separate tools together? Separate tools can each be useful, but the context between them often depends on people manually keeping everything aligned. Pivot brings communication, content, planning, and progress into the same environment, so the workflow is easier to follow. And last question, where should a team start? Start with the area that feels the most scattered. Look for the workflow where people keep asking for links, repeating updates, losing decisions, or chasing status. That usually is the first best space to build. So that's it for today. I just want to leave you with a few final words. The next time your team feels like it needs one more tool, it may be worth asking a better question. Where should this work live so people can actually follow it? That is what Pivot helps you build. Check the description below to explore Pivot and start building your first connected space. Thank you guys for being here and see you next time.